Hey everyone, so welcome back to another episode of the Black Create Connect podcast. Now I'm so excited about this guest today. I just want to give you all a backstory before I introduce them because I'm grateful that there's humans on earth that trust my energy and trusted to come here today. So I actually went to RecFest and I went to a talk on diversity in the workplace, and this incredible man, he had this amazing presence. You know, he was so engaging. He was saying things that were so, grasping and really insightful. And I thought to myself, I really just want to thank him for speaking. And I had no intentions of actually asking him to come or asking you to come as a guest today until, I shook your hand and I thought, let me just ask, because I feel like my community in the UK needs to hear a lot of the things that you shared, and probably more. So, so without further ado, welcome Torin Ellis. Torin Ellis he's an author of Rip the Resume. He is a coach, consultant. He's a speaker, podcaster, board advisor. Torin, feel free to introduce yourself. Welcome.
All of those things, but most importantly, I'm Black. I'm
yes.
human, and I care about humanity, you know, and I often say, Alicia, that two of the most powerful words in our lexicon are love and process. That if I love you, you don't care that I'm hitting you on your wrist because you know that I love you.
Yeah.
For whatever reason he's doing that, he's doing it out of love.
Yeah.
But if you don't know that I love you, now you have to process, why is he hitting me on my wrist?
Yeah.
Why is he pushing me out of the way? Why is he not inviting me to a meeting or to this event or to this social? You have to process it.
Yeah.
And I'm not suggesting that you'll arrive at a negative decision. I'm just saying love and process, two of the most powerful words in our lexicon. So that's who I am.
I love that. Just out of interest, just to kind of get started on like you, because I really want to understand how you've come here today. Why and how did you kind of get into the D&I consulting space? What's that journey been like for you?
So let me try to do it in 90 seconds. In corporate America, I ran one of the top sales teams for a telecommunications company in the mid 90s. I think my team was like number 70 out of 700. We were in the top 70. And there were these moments where I would go through and I would develop individuals and then promote them. And a sign of good leadership to me is how many people can you promote? How many people can you push up the ladder of opportunity? And so I continued to promote individuals and push them in the organization. And we got to this one position, and it was like 1998. And I developed and coached an individual that came into the company. And then they gave that individual a position that everybody in the building said that was mine. 500 people knew Torin is going to be the next manager. They gave it to that woman. So I walked away from corporate America in 98 because I was frustrated. I was disappointed.
Was she white?
She was white.
Okay.
And I also was frustrated because the leader of that building said he couldn't trust a Black man with hair on his face. So
he said that to your face?
Absolutely. So, and I didn't have the language. I didn't have the resolve. I didn't have the composure to deal with that. Because for me, it was an on and off switch when I was in my late 20s and early 30s.
Yeah.
It was either I'm on full tilt or I'm going to be quiet. And if I'm full tilt, it's a problem.
Yeah.
So I didn't know how to really handle that in a way that would not place me in a precarious situation. I guess what's fair for me to say is I already know that about me because that on-off switch got me kicked out of the military. I jumped across the table.
You was in the military?
Jumped across the table and punched the officer in his mouth because he called me a boy. So I'm not a person who operates in my late 20s and 30s with a lot of composure. Either I just let it go or I'm going to deal with it and I'm going to deal with it head on. Walked away from corporate America, started a recruiting company. I'm way over my 90 seconds, but
no.
Started a recruiting company.
There's no limit.
And in all of the recruiting that I was doing, Alicia, and you know the world of recruiting, I was recruiting people that made $150,000, $200,000, $300,000, $400,000 a year. And in all of these organizations, there was a lack of representation, but I was making a lot of money. And it was around 2010 that I just got frustrated with recruiting because it was no longer a challenge. I got frustrated with all of these reports around we care about diversity, these statements, we care about diversity, but it didn't really feel like anyone was doing anything about it.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
The companies that you were recruiting for, did they say, oh, we care about diversity?
Absolutely.
Okay, so why?
Telecommunication companies, financial services companies.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Tech companies. Yeah, we care about it, but they weren't really doing anything about it. I could find you. I could find Terrence. I was able to find people because I'm a great recruiter, but their internal recruiting teams never seemed to be able to do it. So after the bubble of 01, the economic collapse of 2008, in 2010, I said, I need a different challenge. And so I'm going to go into organizations and I'm going to help their recruiting teams do a better job of finding underrepresented and marginalized talent.
Do you know what's crazy about everything that you explained? There's so much that I resonate with and I feel weirdly understood because I'm fiery like you, like how you were, I guess, at certain points, because I've cussed people out to this day, like in workplaces. And the same reason as to why I started the Black Create Connect network was because actually I was doing a search on LinkedIn and I couldn't find any Black people in the search. And I was like, I put out a post saying, I'm creating a group so I can just post opportunities to the Black community straight away.
And then you have the hashtag Black Creative?
Black Create Connect, yeah.
What was it? Black
Create Connect.
Black Create Connect. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I mean, for me, it was just being intentional. It was, deciding that instead of complaining about the lack of diversity or representation, do something about it. So go in as a consultant, help these organizations, recruiting teams to do a better job.
Okay, talk me through that, because I do something similar as well, where I'll do workshops, I'll do training sessions, but I've had sessions, no word of a lie, with companies, and a Black girl's pulled me aside and said, this isn't having an impact. Like they're faking it, kind of thing. Interestingly enough, one of the companies, I won't mention their name, that you spoke for, I've done a workshop session with them 2 months ago, full white company. And I'm like, oh, okay, it's interesting that you're hosting this discussion, but I don't really see diversity at all in your company. So where do you feel like companies need to wake up? What are some of the key things they need to be considering and doing to really have an impact with diversity and inclusion?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things, and that's the beautiful part of this work. First and foremost, more often than not, when we have the conversation around diversity and inclusion, it's a heavy conversation. It seems to be one that is more punitive and less promise. So first and foremost, I try to get people to shift their observation, their outlook towards the conversation of diversity and inclusion. Let's look at the beauty, the aspiration. Let's look at the arc of where we can take this beautiful work right here. Let's not look at, oh, it's lost. Someone's taking something that belongs to me. Let's not focus on the pain. Let's not focus on, and I'm not saying ignore it, but let's not focus on the negative aspects of such beauty in humanity. And that's what I try to always tell people. Diversity and inclusion is about humanity for me. The ROI of D&I is greater humanity. So yeah, I want to impact the bottom line. I want the organization to make more money. I want the business team and the department to be more profitable. And I want them to extend their decrease their attrition and extend tenure and have different and deeper engage. I want all of the things that matter in building an incredible organization, but I want to do it in a way that's aspirational. So what do I think organizations need to do? Number one, I think that they absolutely have to live out that commitment, that tenet, that D&I is important to them. And that if they are not having leadership willing to model that, then you got to be called out on that. You have to be, and when I say called out, sometimes I'll say called in. We can talk about that a little bit later, because there is a difference in that, and both of them are required. But bottom line is you have to be able to hold them accountable. Number two, you need to make sure that your recruiting teams understand what it looks like to be representative. If you have an homogenous recruiting team, it may be challenging for them to go into a community event in Brixton
Yeah.
because they don't feel comfortable.
Yeah.
They're cool at Canary Wharf,
Yeah.
but going into Brixton,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
not necessarily
But
my
then,
thing.
question, right? What can they then do? Because naturally people gravitate towards different environments and people just naturally because of who we are.
Sure.
So what can they really do to, I guess, feel comfortable in those environments? Or is it okay for them not to feel comfortable?
I think it's okay for us to not feel uncomfortable. We all have places where we do and don't want to go. That's not what I'm suggesting. What I'm suggesting is you can't overlook the talent in Brixton because everyone on your team is only comfortable in Canary Wharf. So you need to diversify, first and foremost, your team. So you need to be intentional. Okay, listen, we don't have representation from Black voices, from brown voices, from the LGBTQ community, people with disabilities. If they are not a part, we don't have that perspective on our recruiting team, then first we got to be honest and we got to do that. I know which company you're talking about. So from a geographic standpoint, what are the challenges there? You know, if we don't have diversity or you don't have representation in that geography, then you have to be willing to say what in this role or what roles do we have in the organization where it's not required that the talent come from our geography, that we can move outside of our typical radius. We can grab them internationally. We can be or become global. It can be remote. It can be someone agile or distributed in location. We just need to have a different perspective. That company and every other organization on the planet. Watch what I tell you. Every single organization on the planet in March of 2020 switched on a dime and worked remote. Every single company figured out how to take everything that they did in the building and do it in 2 weeks.
It shows if you want to do it, you can do it.
And yet in 30, 40, 50 years, they haven't figured out how to go find people that are less than represented in our organization because they haven't been attended.
When you start working with these companies, what's your first, like, what are the steps you do to transform them? Do you start with the recruitment? Do you start internally with the leaders or the teams? Like, what's your process?
Yeah, first thing is I tell them the truth on the phone. Forget,
I believe you.
Forget getting involved and engaged. The first thing is to be very direct and transparent in our initial conversations.
Okay.
I let them know I am not the person that is going to come in and coddle you.
Right.
I am not the consultant that is going to make you. I am the consultant who is going to let the emperor know that they do not have clothes on. So as long as you understand that that's who I am coming in, then we can determine, first and foremost, we need to do a discovery. I need to know where the organization is. And based on the conversation and how committed they are, I tend to tell them, Alicia, I need to look at all of the value points inside of the organization. And for the listener, the value point to me is learning and development, corporate social responsibility, board governance, training, recruiting, sourcing, employer branding, marketing, finance, operations. I can keep going. I look at diversity and inclusion
in
at
everything.
The value points. What are the pluses? What are the minuses? How can we make it better? And we give them a report. And then from the report, I say, I can help you. We can help you with these things or some of these things or none of these things because it may not be something we do. I'm not a training and development firm.
Right. Okay.
So while I may evaluate learning and development to see what is there, is not there, how do we make it better? How do we have learning equity? How do we have more on the syllabus? How we have multidimensional experiences? While I may be able to evaluate those or value point, I'm not the person who delivers that information. So I'm going to go out and find the right vendors to help them build up that particular aspect of the work. So for me, it's truthful conversations in the very beginning, then performing a discovery, delivering a report that they can read and implement on their own, or they engage us to further implement for them. And typically a consultant engagement for me is somewhere between 12 and 18 months, typically.
Okay.
We can't get it done
in 3 months.
You can't. You just won't do it in 3 months.
Yeah.
3 months is like a speaker series, or it's it just doesn't work that way.
What takes place though in those 12 to 18 months? Because I'm also learning as well from what you're saying. So are you just more so just evaluating, having conversations? You looking at the supplier list? Like, what are you actually doing within those 12 to 18 months?
So we're having individual conversations. So depending on what role you might play inside of the organization, you and I will talk a number of times. You and I will also gather or exchange information, because I may ask you 5 questions, but I may also email you 5. And I want you to spend some time with those 5 and send it back to me. I record every conversation. So there's no way that I will be able to really live with what you are saying. I hear you in the moment. I'm responding in the moment. But also when I go back and listen to the recording, I may say, wow, I didn't really catch that she said that. But here's what's beautiful. When I record, when I read your emails, we start to put 2 and 2 together. When I receive something else from somebody on your team or in the business unit, I get to overlay that. And then when I see something from this person right here, and then when I look at a piece of data coming from here and I meet in the middle, I'm like, wait a minute.
This is
Let me
like a
go back
pattern.
to something she said at the 3-minute mark in that very first call, or the 7-minute mark in that third call, because I remember it.
Yeah.
So I go back and I'll say, let me go back to Alicia because I need to verify this, or I need to push her a little bit more here. So I do phone calls, we do group calls, we do email exchanges, we do data review. We look at employee engagement reports, we look at policy and procedure handbooks. I look at exit interviews. Everything. I look at as much as they'll allow me.
Do you have a team that works with you?
Yeah, absolutely.
I was thinking this is a lot of work.
Yeah.
And this all under the Torin
Ellis brand.
Torin Ellis brand.
Yeah. So my team is distributed. So I'm in Baltimore.
Okay.
I have a person in Virginia. I have 2 people in Toronto, Canada. I have a person in Miami, Florida, and 1 person in Cali. Seattle, Washington. So
how have you effectively scaled? Because you sound like you're a brilliant consultant and you kind of notice the detail and you can kind of go into things. But how have you, scaled that to make sure that your entire team is reflective of that? So
full transparency, I haven't effectively scaled.
Okay.
I haven't. You're talking about a person who, in recruiting, I was doing $1 million a year in less than 12 months. You're talking about a person who lost it in 2001 when the bubble burst.
All the money?
Lost it.
Like mentally?
Business was gone.
Oh.
Business was gone. Rebuilt the business. Right. Lost it again in 2008.
Right.
Rebuilt it. Lost the 7-figure, and when I say 7-figure, $10 million contract in 2011. When I tell you that I have built and lost and built and lost, the losses are far more. They outweigh the building. And yet I've been out here for 25 years. On that, right? Because I can't imagine the mental ups and downs that you might have been having at that time. How do you recover from that mentally? What type of practices do you do to get through those moments of massive losses? I don't even know if I really have a process, but I will tell you something that I love t-shirts. Okay. And one of my old employees in 98, he had a t-shirt on. And this is when I was right before I left corporate America. And on the front of his t-shirt, this is no exaggeration. On the front of his t-shirt, it said, "Why did God make me black?" And Are you serious? Back of his t-shirt, it said, "Because he knew that I could handle it." So when you ask me, what is it? I'm just a person who has an unwavering belief in who I am. I have an unwavering belief that no matter what it is that I'm going through, I'm absolutely going to overcome it. And I don't know how long it's going to take for me to exit this dark moment, this period of rejection. No, I don't know what or how long it's going to be. But what I do know is that I can't give up. So that's the t-shirt. I say life is like wrestling a gorilla. You don't quit when you get tired. You quit when the gorilla gets tired. Let me say it again. Yeah. Life is like wrestling a gorilla. You don't quit when you get tired. Imagine a gorilla in this room. Yeah, I know. and that gorilla is chasing us around this table.
Yeah.
You better make sure you are moving, because if you don't and the gorilla grabs you, it's a wrap.
Yeah.
So you don't quit when you get tired. When that gorilla gets tired, yes. So when whatever that is that I'm going through is off of my shoulder, I'm just like, I'm gone. So that's a like incredibly strong mindset you have. I feel like when I've ever heard people answer these type of questions, it's usually like, I've had support, I've had family, I've gone to therapy, you know, I've gone to God, I've done different things, but you just you've done all those things. Oh, absolutely. I do have family. I do have support.
Okay.
I do go through moments where I'm like, yo, for real, this like, I don't want to talk. I don't want to text.
Yeah.
They're dark, but you don't quit. You just can't allow yourself to wallow in, oh, you lost a contract, or someone told you no, or this client didn't want to work with you.
You just have to keep going.
You just have to keep going. Like it's the same way that I talked on stage, you know, a couple of days ago. We try to make these things more challenging than they really are.
Yeah.
Every single person goes through calamity. We look at social media and we look in magazines and we watch the news, and we're always we're trying to transpose ourselves into the lives of other people. That's not your life. That's not your frequency. The Most High gave you a frequency. You got to live on your beat. And you gotta you gotta live on your beat. You can't rock on somebody else's beat.
Preach.
It's just not gonna work that way. So no matter what we do, there's no shortcuts. We just have to find our own beat. And so I live on my own beat. I live on my own rhythm. Do I want what other people have? Do I want some of that success? Do I want what I had in 2001? Do I want those things? Absolutely.
Yeah.
But I got a team. So we haven't scaled the way that I envision scaling.
Okay.
But that's all right. Because what I'm chasing is something bigger than scaling a consulting team. Let me give you an example.
Yeah.
I said a long time ago that the D&I space was too small for me. As big as the space is, doing consulting was too small for me. It's easy. I want something creative. So where I've been chasing for the last year and a half is, who's the right contact for me to have in-flight movie service with 15, 30-second D&I commercials or messaging? Who's the right contact for me to create D&I shorts with Pixar or with Disney? So whenever young people, children watch a commercial or a brand new movie, there's just this little 2-3 minute episode. You see where I'm at?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to influence something far bigger than the human resource space or the talent acquisition space or the 4,000 people that were at RecFest. I want to hit millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of people. So scaling my consulting team, okay, we haven't done it, but that's not the goal for me. Greatness for me is impacting hundreds of millions of people, changing the frequency and the way that they look at diversity and inclusion.
So with some of the companies you've worked with so far, where would you say you've had the most growth and development? Is there like a standout client you've worked with and you're like, I'm so proud of how far we've come? You don't have to mention their names, but just like what that process.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's all on my website. Some of them are on my website, but I will tell you the thing that makes me the happiest about all of my engagements is if I can get them to do one thing. And I said this on Thursday when we were at RecFest. If I can get an organization, no matter what size the organization is, if I can get that organization to commit to asking every single employee, what did they do to support the D&I efforts in the organization, then I know that I've won. Because most organizations right now on a performance evaluation, they're not asking a question around D&I. They're not asking that question. They might hold an executive accountable for D&I, might hold an executive accountable for D&I. They might hold a senior leader accountable for D&I, but they're not holding the janitor accountable for D&I. They're not holding the bookkeeper accountable for D&I. They're not holding all of the sales reps accountable for D&I. All of the people on the marketing team, or they're not holding, I want every single person. That's that greatness that I talked about a moment ago. So for me, great is when an organization, or standout is when an organization says, you've made so much of an impact.
Yeah.
We understand how you think about D&I, your philosophy, your approach, your methodology. You're marrying the business imperative with that social method, that social imperative. We get it. So we are going to ask all 500 of our employees, or all 5,000 of our employees, or all 50,000 of our employees. When that happens, I know that I won.
So how do you quantify it though? Because I work internally, and D&I is a massive word that's thrown around a lot of the times, and people say that they're involved in it, or they value D&I and everything, but sometimes it's so hard to quantify. Like, how can I verify that you're actually being accountable from a D&I perspective?
Employee engagement is one thing.
Okay.
So first and foremost, if I can lower attrition, then I can attribute a portion of that to feeling like you belong, feeling like you are experiencing equality and equity, inclusive or inclusion in the organization. So if I can lower attrition, that's quantifiable. If I can increase productivity, that's quantifiable. Can you attribute all of it to D&I? No. But if I get more production and unlock more production out of Alicia, because in the past, Alicia's leader was not leading, was not developing her, was not inspiring her, was not resourcing her, was not supporting her. If those four aspects are missing, and for whatever reason, Alicia is reclusive and she's pent up, she's not given all that. Well, if I know how to unlock that as a great leader, or if I can walk you through a process of being a better leader, how to model being an effective leader for Alicia, and now Alicia begins to unlock and give you more of that production, that's quantifiable. So if I can promote you, that's quantifiable. There are a number of ways for us to evaluate and put measurement on the efficacy of diversity and inclusion. I spent a lot of time on clients in the past who they bring me in, but they're not really willing to commit to the work that I'm doing.
Do you get a lot of those clients?
Not anymore.
Okay.
I used to. And part of the reason why I don't get a lot of those clients now is because I have a different process for embracing opportunity. I get a lot of organizations that reach out to me.
Yeah.
But I can test them in 15 minutes, in 20 minutes. They're not going to be serious.
How'd you test them?
First and foremost, I let them know that working with me is not cheap. So if you are
pricing it.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yeah. Listen, I got a post up on Twitter right now. If you go to my Twitter account, there are conference organizers that reach out and ask me to speak. Yeah. And they'll say, well, we're not going to pay you, but we'll give you exposure. I don't need exposure. People know who I am. Or if I need it, I don't need that. And as long as I've been doing what I'm doing, then you got to pay me. And I'm going to bring a frequency to your event that nobody else is going to bring.
Which you did.
So if in fact you believe in the audience that you are assembling, because what they'll say to you, Alicia, is, we'll give you exposure. That says, we believe in our audience. We believe in the people that are attending the event. So if you believe in that audience, the way you say you believe in them, then you share the risk with me. You pay me. And then if I get business from your event, I'll give you a percentage of the money back.
And you don't really have to anyway.
I don't have to, but I'm willing. You want me to believe in them, then you share in that risk with me. Yeah. So on the consulting side, I let them know, proposals don't leave my desk for under $50,000.
Ooh, what for like a 12 to 18 month project?
I won't even do a proposal if it's less than $50,000.
What?
And I don't blink when I say it.
You have this next level confidence, because it's interesting that you're saying this, because myself, so I work with a lady called Bami Katea, and we do training sessions and D&I workshops. And we had a conversation like a month ago, and we was like, we need to up our prices because we think we're not charging enough. And she brought that conversation. I was so uncomfortable with it. I was like, I know, but we're trying to do good. We're trying to help people. She was like, we need to have that confidence to charge more. And I don't know what it is. I don't know why people feel like they can't charge a certain amount. Why do you feel like you can, or have you always been in this place where you can say nothing less than amount? How did you get there?
If you go in as a consultant, first and foremost, you are playing in multiple roles in the organization. Yeah. So a portion of you is playing as their chief diversity officer. Yeah. A portion of you is playing as the head of operations. A portion of you might be playing as the VP of talent. You might be sitting in some aspect of hours are in the CHRO role. Yeah. So when you look at yourself as a consultant, you have to say, if I'm going to be moving through this organization, wielding my acumen and my experience and my expertise, it may be 100 hours in this capacity. It may be 50 hours in this capacity. And I don't do hourly either. I'm never going to. Oh, is it? Oh, absolutely. I personally don't do hourly. Okay. Because I'm willing to give you far more than I'm willing. I just emailed, as I walked up to you, I just emailed a young lady. I said, look, I'll be in LA next week. Yeah. I can't do the meeting that you need, but I will do a 20-minute phone call with you the day before just to make sure you're ready. Right. That's not part of my scope. Yeah. So I give so much more in my engagement than I'm charging you for. Yeah. So to me, it just, I don't ever want to say the engagement's going to cost us or require, let's just say 100 hours. And now when I'm at 100 and we haven't really hit what we need, we hit stride at 150 hours. I got to keep coming back to you and justifying why we're asking. Yeah. No, I'm just going to listen. This is what it is. I'm scoping it. This is the investment. You agree to the investment. And if I feel like I've given you 2 or 3 times that investment, then so be it. Yeah. I'm going to give you more, but you're never going to cheapen me.
Do you know, when you put it like that, when you say, I play the chief diversity officer, the VP and this and that, when you think about a yearly salary, actually, that's a bargain. Correct. So, but when you put it like that, that actually makes more sense.
Absolutely.
Are you expanding to the UK as well, or you just...
Oh, I have clients in the UK.
You got clients in the UK? So how do you work with them? Is it just virtual?
Oh, no, sometimes I'm here.
Okay.
Yeah, sometimes I'm here. It really depends on what they require and what we agree is necessary. For the last 2 years, though, everything was virtual. Yeah. We weren't really going on site. We just started going on site. I would say for some of my US clients, I started going on site last September, October. And then internationally, I came over in January. So I think going forward, I may be back a little more often. Okay. But yeah.
Okay. So I want to touch on your book. You said so many interesting things at the talk, actually, that related to not using resumes or not doing unconscious bias training and not using robots or like removing all the details of the resume and everything. But just starting with your book, Rip the Resume, what made you write that book and what are some of the key things that you cover in that book?
Rip the Resume is old. I saved the domain name for Rip the Resume, I want to say in 2006 or 7, something like that. I was sitting in the airport when I saved the domain name. I wrote the book because I felt like, and I don't know what it's like here in London, but in the US, we have historically Black colleges and universities, what's considered an HBCU. At many of the HBCUs, their career centers are, what's the word that I want to use? Their career centers are not as aggressive about going to get clients and companies to come to their institution. Let me give you an example. Most HBCUs, they're not going to have just a high-flying tech company like Google or Apple. they wouldn't. This is back then in 2000. Now things are a little bit different. They weren't aggressively going after an Apple, Google, or whomever and saying, come to our campus and recruit our students. So therefore, the students that were going to these campuses, they were typically going after jobs at like a rental car place or maybe a hotel. Could be a great hotel, but they weren't tech companies. I knew tech was it. I knew how important and powerful it was going to be in shaping our landscape. So I felt like the students were being underserved even by their career center, by their institution. Not purposefully, but just they didn't know. I'm a recruiter. I see what's going on. The career center people, they don't really see what's going on. So I wrote the book because I didn't feel like Black and brown kings and queens were being developed and prepared for the workplace. Problem is that when I would go to the career centers at Black and brown, that's why I have no cut card. The problem is that at these Black and brown institutions, the provost, the president, the director of the career center would never invest in having me come speak. They would never pay to have me come
That's
speak.
Crazy.
So I said, okay, well, they want me to come to the college for free because the person from the company, Northrop Grumman or Lockheed Martin or Marriott or Holiday Inn, they would go to the campus and try to tell them how to do a resume or how to interview or what. But that's their job. My job was to try to develop, so I need somebody to pay me. They wouldn't pay. So I said, I'll just write a book. So I wrote the book. And I wrote the book and released it in 2016. So that shows you how long I saved it in 2006. The book didn't get released until 2016. And I wrote the book for college students. First time entering into the career. And I was on SiriusXM, which is satellite radio, for 5 years. If you look at the reviews on Amazon for my book.
4.7 stars. Is it more than that now?
Those reviews are mostly by people who have been in the career space 15, 20 years.
Oh, really?
So here it is. I'm writing it for recent college graduates or university, as you all say here, graduates. Tenured people that have been working read the book and was like, yo, I wish I would have had this earlier in my career, because the book tells you how to put a resume together, talks about interviewing strategy, how you do conversational mapping. It talks about just all types of
conversational mapping. What's that?
Conversational mapping for me, I might say something like, Alicia, so I don't know. I mean, you must love flowers, because I've looked around the room and I see different flowers all around the room. Okay. Or, something tells me that you are a person that is absolutely into style. Right. Because I looked over there and I saw an incredible handbag. Right. Every once in a while, you might light a candle or something. Does that set the mood for you and off? So I use different things in my environment to help me shape my interview, because I want to make sure that I connect with them. You got an hour. Right. When I'm in an interview with you, I have 1 hour to connect, to show you that I'm the person that you should hire, that you should bring to be a part of your team. Yeah. So I have to do everything that I can to connect immediately. When we walked up, Terrence and I, he introduced himself to me. He was cool with that. And then he said something. Boom, I latched onto it, sparked the conversation up 2 or 3 levels. And we did that in less than 2 minutes. Because I am absolutely about connecting. So that's what the book was about. The book was about, how do I make it so that young kings and queens enter into an interviewing scenario with more confidence, more preparedness, and are able to close the gap of opportunity sooner rather than later.
So how do you think people from the Black community could really put themselves out there effectively for the top opportunities? Because I've noticed that working with organizations, one of the things that companies struggle with is getting a volume of senior Black professionals into workplaces. And it could be because we're not ever applying for the roles, we're not representing ourselves in the best way internally. It could be for a number of reasons. But what are some of the things that we can do as individuals to really get to C-level positions and be respected when we're there as well?
Yeah, I think so. I'll do everything I can to stay tight on this response. Number one, we have to be risk takers.
Okay.
You know, I think that in the Black community, there is this perception, there's an undercurrent that we are not risk takers. We want things that are a little more predictable.
Yeah.
We want things to be a bit more manageable.
Yeah.
Go back in our interview and our discussion, you have an incredible intensity and willpower and belief in your mind. Everybody doesn't operate like that, but we have to be willing to take risks. Listen, it may require that I lose a bit of compensation, or it may require that I take a step back in title, or it may require that I find myself in an organization that is a little less known, but I got to be willing to take a risk. So that's number one. I think we should be risk takers. Number two, I think that we should, as the good Bible says, study to show thyself approved. Study to show thyself approved. The reason why I say that is because when I lost that multi-seven-figure contract in 2011 that I mentioned, I for 30 days researched D&I for the last 100 years. So I know policy, I know executive order, I know the first company that was doing this, I know that. I don't remember all of it as much as I did then, but for 100 years, I looked at what have we done in D&I before I hit the marketplace and said, I'm a consultant. So study. Let's be willing to take risks and let's study. So I tell candidates all the time, when you really want more professionally, number one, they're going to look at creative contribution. What have you done? What have you delivered? How have you saved us money? How have you made us more money? How have you delivered something in this organization to make us better? So creative contribution is number one. Number two, market recon. I tell all of my candidates or any professional, you got to know your marketplace. Who are the players? Who are the threats? Where are the opportunities to collaborate? Who can be a strategic partner? Know the landscape. You will not know the landscape if you are not studying to show yourself approved. And then number three, Alicia, is conviction. Okay. Real simple. Creative contribution, market recon, and conviction. When I show up in a room, people know that I ain't messing around. Yeah. Period. Yeah. And no matter where I am, when I show up, I'm showing up. Period. Put me on any stage in front of any mic, I'm wrecking shop. Put me on any phone call with any executive, I'm wrecking shop because I have that conviction. I'm not mealy-mouthed. I'm not unsure. I'm not, my man said out front, I'm an aspiring writer. I'm like, an aspiring writer? No, you're a writer. Let's operate in our expectation, our beautiful gift and genius. I'm here because I've earned it. And I might make a mistake. I may not get it, but I'm not getting ready to not get it because I'm kind of unsure about why I'm in front of this microphone. So I'm willing to take risks. You have to be able to show that you can add value, that you understand the playground, the sandbox that you operate in, and then you move with all types of conviction.
That is some incredible advice. I'm just soaking it all in, especially the last one, conviction as well. I think some of the common questions that I get from members of my community is, Alicia, I don't know what I'm good at. I don't know where to really go. I'm trying to figure things out. So they haven't really yet identified. And sometimes I'll do my best to try to say, okay, what do you like? What have you done? And they're lost. What would you say to individuals that they really don't know what their calling is at the moment? What would you say?
All right. So before I answer that, I want to just go back to the first question. The previous question. In terms of getting into the C-suite, you do have to find a mentor. You have to find a strategic mentor. So when you've done all of the other things that I've talked about, a mentor is typically somebody who operates in your zone of genius. They're close to you. You see them all the time. You report to them. You interact with them a lot. That tends to be a mentor. A strategic mentor for me is somebody a couple of levels above me that's outside of my business unit and department. So I want to, and why am I doing that? I'm doing that. I want that person up here to pour into me so that I'm more valuable to the business. See, you and I, Alicia, we in the same business unit. We're on the same team. We're doing the same podcast. It ain't a whole lot that you can teach me about the podcast that I don't already know because we're doing it together. But if we had the person who owned the podcast or did a different aspect of the podcast, maybe they can teach me something, maybe about the equipment, maybe about how we go out and get advertisers and sponsors. So now I'm like, okay, wait a minute. I can talk to Alicia. We know how to be a good co-host and team or whatnot, but how do I go out and make the podcast more money, more profitable? Alicia can't give that to me.
Yeah.
They can.
Yeah.
So we need to have a mentor and a strategic mentor. So if we want to get into that C-suite, there are some things that we need to do to position ourselves to be attractive for that. So now for the person who is struggling on how do I identify what it is that I want to do, I don't know. I think you just got to do it.
Yeah.
I don't think that there's really a formula for, I think it's a little bit of trial and error. Some people say, double down on your focus on your opportunity areas. There are other people who have a philosophy of saying, forget the opportunity areas. I'm not good at writing.
Yeah.
So some would say, well, if you're not good at writing, just spend, time writing every day.
Yeah.
No. I'm going to spend time on what I'm good at. I'm going to spend time on researching so that my speeches and my talks are powerful.
Good, yeah.
I'm not going to spend time writing.
Yeah.
That's not what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to spend time trying to find that contact over at Pixar.
Yeah.
That contact at British Airways.
Yeah.
So I can get that greatness that I'm looking for.
Yeah.
I'm going to spend my time on the things that bring me joy.
Yeah. I love that. I have a question to ask you in regards to the mentorship thing as well and strategic mentorship. 2 questions. I think I have struggled to find a mentor because I've rarely met people that have followed a path that inspires me. So I can be inspired by someone's journey and be like, that's great for you, but that's not what really I want to do, if that makes sense. So first of all, how do you go about getting a mentor? What are some of the steps that you can take? Because I think that's been a struggle. And also, what do you think people that are mentors, what do you think they look for in mentees as well?
Yeah, I'll go with the second one first. I think what they look for is a person who's willing to listen. I don't think people really want to use and spend their time with people who are not willing to listen. Yeah. It's okay if that's not really for me every once in a while. But if you want me to mentor you in everything that I tell you to do, you're resistant, you push back, it can't be done, you're negative.
Yeah,
that's not really a good relationship.
Yeah.
So I think mentors want people that are not only going to listen, but that are going to be willing to take action. So that's the second thing. What do I think we need to do on the front side and finding mentors? I think that we should be patient. I think that when I'll use you as an example. When we stood under the tent and you shook my hand and you introduced yourself to me, you said to me, well, I won't say what you said, but you asked me to be on the podcast. I said yes. I think that in a mentor relationship, that's something a little more intimate. That's a bit more involved. So if you would have stood under the tent on Thursday and said, Torin, would you be my mentor? I would have said that was so premature. I don't think that we exhibit enough patience. Being on the podcast is one thing. Being a mentor is something different. And I don't think we exhibit enough patience when we try to evaluate that relationship or that potential of a relationship, because it is a relationship. So I just think that we need to operate with more patience. I think people know what needs to be done. I just think that they are firing a little bit too quick. So slow down.
How many people have you mentored to date, do you think?
I don't know. I mean, I have people who email me and say that I'm their mentor. I have a beautiful young lady down in Miami. Her name is Anna. I won't say her last name, but she has time on my calendar for probably the next year.
Really?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And she's in an organization. Mind you, I got a team of 5. So what you're asking me is, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm not a corporate executive. I just want you to really hear that. I am not a corporate executive inside of a large organization mentoring people. I am, in many ways, an individual who people have latched onto and said, I know what it's like to, in many ways, Alicia, I know what it's like to not have a mentor. You know, I can honestly say that I remember once in 2008 trying to get a mentor. I actually flew down to Orlando. Met with the guy. Can I tell the story?
Go ahead.
So my cousin set me up with a meeting. The gentleman was running a $700 million company in March of 2008. Flew down to Orlando. When I walked into the office, you know how you have carpet down and then there's plastic over the carpet because they're moving furniture. When I walked off the elevator, I saw all of the plastic because they were moving furniture. I could smell the paint. They had just moved into the office like that week or weekend. This is no exaggeration. We sat and talked for close to 2 hours. At the end of the meeting, he said, Torin, I really don't have the bandwidth to be your mentor.
Oh, wow.
It's fine. No problem. I didn't take offense to that. When we walked back to the elevator, now mind you, they just moved in that day. This is March of 2008. When he took me to the elevator, he said, I have 2 deals, one in this hand and one in this hand. If either of these deals close, we will outgrow this space. This is what I'm leaving him on. August of that year, the economy crashed. March 2008, he's telling me I don't have the bandwidth, brand new office space doing $700 million, close any one of those deals. They need to move out of the office that the plastic is not even up off the ground on. August of 2008, the economy crashes. Cool, no problem. I stay in touch with him. Even though he's not my mentor, I would send him a message every 12 months, 10 months. Hey, how you doing? How things going? 4 years later, they crossed $1 billion.
His company.
His company. All I could say to myself, first of all, I sent him a message saying congratulations. Then I sat back on my chair and I said, what would my life be like right now if I could have gotten an hour a month with him?
Oh my gosh.
If he's at 700 million and the economy collapsed, whatever they needed to do, he crosses the $1 billion threshold 4 years later. What would my life, that's the one mentor that I wanted.
Wow.
And just wished that I could have had. So when I say just you have to be patient, you just have to be patient. And he's still killing it right now.
Is he in the same space as us as well? I feel so inspired by that.
Absolutely.
To know there's that much money as well in the space. To know that there's that much money in the space.
Killing it.
I'll stay in it. I'll stay in it.
Yeah, one of my friends now, he's sitting on top of $100 million company in our space. They do, recruitment process outsourcing, RPO firm. They staffing firm. Yeah. Brother.
I feel like I need to come to America and do this because this money don't know if it exists in the UK.
$100 million company, black guy.
Wow.
Yeah, he's one of my
I
mentors.
love that. That's so inspiring because sometimes I feel like whenever I explain my vision and what I'm doing, of course people are like, that sounds great. But I'm like, do you get it? Do you understand the bigger vision? And hearing this makes me feel like I'm really working towards something like massive. So I'm so appreciative. I'm really emotional, by the way. So I'm so grateful that you gave me your time today. I'm going to cry. This is so weird. I'm so grateful because I feel like, God allowed me to meet you and be inspired by you and just kind of reaffirm what I'm doing. So thank you so much.
You are most welcome.
I appreciate it.
No, I mean, it's not an opportunity that I take lightly. For you, it was, I don't know if this person is going to say yes because you saw me as someone bigger than being in the tent. You saw me as someone bigger than, you saw me, if I can say this, Alicia, and feel free to correct me, but you saw me as someone bigger than your podcast. And I'm not. I'm not bigger than your podcast. I am a part of your journey, period. So our paths crossed. You did the right thing by opening your mouth and saying, would I be here? And I'm like, absolutely. I would have done it when I went back home. But you were like, no, bro. Yeah, I need you in the studio. I was like, I'm saying to myself, like, okay, cool. I'll figure my way out. I'm getting pretty good with this whole train thing, and we're gonna make it work. So
Okay.
I want you to believe, and this is not that you don't, but I want you, that conviction that I spoke of, when you make the request, I want you to believe in and be inviting people to something that you see as incredible.
Yeah.
You know, it's an honor for you to be here, but it's also an honor for you to be on it.
Yeah.
I don't take it lightly that you trust my voice with your people. This is your tribe. I got my own tribe. You trusted me with your tribe. So thank you. I thank you for allowing me to, spend a bit of a Saturday morning before I head back to the U.S., just vibing with a new audience of people. And so while I got you, I'm going to look straight at the camera.
Yeah.
Crazyandtheking.com. Crazyandtheking.com. Crazyandtheking.com is our podcast. And let me tell you, I do the podcast with a white woman who has a hidden disability.
Yeah.
So when we thought of the name, I said, this is going to be a little offensive. Crazy.
That's what I thought when I saw it.
She was like, nope. She
Crazy
said, I
King.
want people to know that I fully function in all of my glory with my hidden disability.
Yeah.
And people call me the king of DEI. I love
it.
And that's not a pompous thing. It's just, I want to know that if I go into a space that I can have Torin Ellis and I don't have to add a whole bunch of numbers and characters to get to it.
Yeah. I get it. I love that. Well, I'm going to protect my names. Everyone protect your names on all platforms, FYI.
Yes, indeed.
But I just want to thank you again and just, shout you out. Thank you so much for taking time out to come today. Wishing you a safe flight back. You're going to LA tomorrow?
I go to LA Monday morning. I go Baltimore tomorrow and then LA Monday morning.
Okay. And I'm sure that the universe will allow us to reconnect again in future. So, I'm putting it out there. But thank you so much for your time.
Bad will be the day for any man or woman when they become absolutely contented with the thoughts that they are thinking, with the deeds that they are doing,
Yeah.
with the life that they are living.